welcome to another Tuesday tutorial. My name's Bob Buckley. Now, about this time of year, deadlines become really important. We're coming up towards the end of the year, so we've got Christmas time to look forward to. But then we've also got financial year end for a lot of businesses. About this time of year, you've also got lots of sales targets to get in before that year end crunch. And for those working in production, well, you've got production targets to hit as well before a certain deadline. So deadlines become really important. On top of that, we've then got to be planning for the following year, and we've got to put critical milestones in place. So that's what we're going to talk about today, deadlines, and how we can help you with them and help you achieve them. And what we're going to do is introduce this time bomb. And this really is to kind of focus the mind. And we're going to take one of the lessons that we cover on the Essential Scholar, that's our leadership development program, and we're going to talk it through here in this tutorial. So this time bomb then, it's all about having deadlines, and having a deadline is good, but having a short deadline is better. And what we'll come on to in a few minutes is how having a short deadline with a clear-cut consequence is best. But before that, I thought I'd just recap on some of the benefits of having a good deadline. So we're not talking about a vague, ambiguous deadline. We're talking about a concrete deadline, one that really kind of gets you fired up. And some of the qualities of having that good deadline is that it'll create focus for you, your team, and your organisation. It'll help create and build momentum, which is what we're all looking for. It'll help you achieve something. So if you didn't have a deadline, or if you had a poor deadline, then you may not achieve anything. It'll help you in terms of sprints and bursts. So having those deadlines in place at regular intervals will really kind of help you there. And then it helps with team bonding in terms of building teams together. And yes, you'll have highs, yes, you'll have lows, but together at the end of the day, you'll be a much stronger unit as a result of having a good deadline in place. Now, this lesson on the Essential Scholar talks about perfection paralysis and how we can use deadlines to avoid perfection paralysis. That's something that I struggle with all the time. So having a good deadline in place, one that really kind of means something to you, kind of really helps me out. And if you are suffering from perfection paralysis, then that will help you out too. And then lastly on there, by having a good deadline in place, you're able to achieve far more than you would have done otherwise. And as a consequence, you'll then learn far more as well. Now, in terms of studying time management and deadlines, you can't go too far without bumping into this chap here, Parkinson and Parkinson's Law. And we've got this famous quote that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. And that's just so true. And it's a really important principle that's covered on Management 101. And what I wanted to do was just explore it a bit more. And I was able to actually get my book on where this quote has come from. And it's from a book called Parkinson's Law. So it's his law and it's written in this book. And it's a lovely book written by Cecil Northcote Parkinson in 1957. And it's a lovely kind of whimsical book with a serious undertone about time management and time management studies. And chapter 1 talks about Parkinson's Law. And it was written from another age because it talks about busy men and elderly lady of leisure. But it's a really beautiful book. If you get your hands on it, then I seriously suggest you should. It just puts into context this quote, and it's just quite a nice book to read as well. So that's Parkinson's Law. Now, we spoke about how deadlines are good. So by having a deadline is better than not having a deadline. Having a short deadline is better, but having a short deadline with a clear-cut consequence is best. And what we'll do now is kind of just walk you through an example that will demonstrate this. So imagine yourself now having to submit a CV, having to update your CV, write your CV, and it's one of your colleagues is asking you the question. So, I'd like your CV updated, please. Now, if you're diligent, you may do it. It could be that you're forgetful. It could be that other things come in and you get distracted. You could be that perfectionist, so therefore you never get it done. But the top line there, where it says, I would like your CV updated, there's no deadline there. So it's hit and miss whether it gets done or not. Now the next line is, I'd like your CV updated this month. So that gives you a deadline. It needs to be done this month. So that can focus your mind, but it's not a particularly good one. So it could be the start of the month, so you've got 4 weeks to get it done. Or it could be the last week, in which case it could be a bit closer. What's better is the third line on here, which is, I'd like your CV updated by this Friday. So you've got a deadline there of this Friday. But what I believe is best is having that short deadline and attaching a consequence to it. So in this example, I'd like your CV updated by this Friday, or we can't submit this project tender. So the consequence there is being unable to submit a project tender. So you could be letting not only yourself down, you'd be letting your team down, you could be letting the organisation down. So there's a real consequence attached to that sales and business growth may have a negative hit. So that really does focus your mind. And if I was that person, I would probably get my CV done today rather than waiting till Friday, because it makes so much of a difference. So that's just one example there that hopefully you can see having that consequence in place really focuses your mind. So the key points then from today. Perfectionists believe that there's always enough time. Deadlines don't apply to them. We talk about Parkinson's law, that work expands to fill the time available. What you need to do is create that action-oriented deadline. So make it meaningful. We spoke about how vague deadlines they fail to inspire. So if you're trying to rally the troops, then make sure you've got a very clear deadline that everybody can buy into. And then lastly there, your deadlines are good, short deadlines are better. Having a short deadline with a consequence is best. And so the yellow slide then, the action step for today. Light that fuse. So what I'd like you to do is think about goals within your professional work and choose a task that needs to gain traction. So perhaps something that you've been neglecting. So choose a task that needs to gain traction and create a short deadline with a clear consequence and write it down. And don't forget to check progress when you're halfway through. So thanks so much for tuning in. That's your Tuesday tutorial. We'll look forward to seeing you next time.